Good afternoon. Welcome back to Moneycontrol's live stream. You're watching Closing Bell with me, Lavisha Darad, and my colleague Yatin Mota. Well, we saw quite a wobbly and a choppy session for the markets today. We are just at the final 2 days of this year, and of course, volatility has increased in a thinly volume session as well. Nifty, after it reclaimed its 23,900 odd levels, it fell below 23,650, and it fell, about like 1% decline from its day's high level as well. Sensex too dropped over 1% from its day's high and settled below that 78,250 odd levels. So Nifty, once again, it's way below than its 200 DMA levels. And even Bank Nifty saw the biggest cut, which was over 2% drop from its day's high level. Majority of the sectors did move towards the negative territory as well. Yatin, don't think that there is much to complain about because we did start with a negative global handover as well. Treasury yields were at 7-month high. Even dollar was above that 108 odd levels.
Absolutely. And if you look at the markets clearly turning choppy, and not only that, we have been making new lows at the start of the week. Last week, we probably held on to, the 200-day moving average, but today we tried to test it and closed below that. So the Nifty ended below that 23,650 mark, which was probably a crucial support zone. Problem with the markets is also the advance decline ratio, which was almost 1:3. So one stock advancing with 3 declining. In fact, today the secondary market saw 3 IPO listings. One is Senores, where the listing premium to the IPO price was nearly 40%. Ventive, a 10% premium to the issue price. However, Carraro clearly disappointing the street with a 10% downtick to the issue price. Obviously, the primary market actions remain quite firm on the Dalal Street. And when it comes to the overall market today, we saw some overall pressure, except for pharma. Most of the stocks were lackluster in trade.
That's right. But if we look at some of the top Nifty 50 gainers and losers, Adani Enterprises, after Ventura Securities gave a buy rating on the counter, it did surge about 7% in today's trading session and definitely was one of the top Nifty 50 gainers as well. We will be discussing more on this later in the segment as well. Some tech stocks did well after Trump bagged H-1B visas over the weekend. We saw HCL Tech as a top gainer and even Tech Mahindra featured in the list. Sun Pharma, of course, as we mentioned that the pharma stocks did well in today's trade. Sun Pharma extended gains for the 5th straight day and Cipla also gained in tandem. However, on the losing end, we saw Hindalco extending its losses for the 2nd straight day. Tata Motors also did not do well, which saw after the last session surge, did see a profit booking in today's trading session as well. Apart from that, we can see the likes of Bharti Electronics, Trent, ONGC, Wipro, which also saw a cut of about 1 to 2%. But on the broader end of the markets, mid caps definitely were flat in the green. It outperformed the other headline indices. On the other hand, the small caps underperformed. Yatin, what do you make sense of the broader end of the markets?
So if you look at the broader end of the market, we had some selective action. Stocks like AstraZeneca, Bajaj Holding, Ireda were doing well in trade. Adani Total Gas were the stocks which did good momentum build up in the cash segment. Adani Enterprises also doing well from the Nifty 50, given the fact that there was not only the rebalancing, but the Wilmar news also, which obviously we'll be talking about. Stocks like Motilal Oswal Financial Services, Newgen Software, Action Construction, all of these stocks hitting multi-year highs. However, stocks like Thermax saw a 10% cut. Triveni Engineering, BDL, and stocks in the defense space witnessing some bit of profit taking.
That's right. But let's talk about the first stock in focus, that is your Adani Enterprises. This was the top Nifty 50 gainer for today, and the surge came after Ventura Securities did set its target price of about 3,801 rupees over the next 2 years, and they've given out a buy rating on the counter, which implies about 50% upside potential from here on. Now, what the analysts from the Ventura Securities believe is that the company's 6.5 to 7 lakh crore rupees capex plan over the next decade will help in the expansion of its airports, data centers, copper, and as well as green business in the second half. They also expect that strong growth in these businesses will help enhance its financial performance and profit margins going ahead. They have pegged over FY24 to 27, they have pegged that Adani Enterprises revenue, EBITDA, as well as net earnings is expected to grow at a CAGR of 17%, 37%, and even 45% for each of these fiscal years. Uh, Despite today's optimism, do note that the stock has been an underperformer this year. Yet, investors' confidence on the stock could take some time because first we saw the Hindenburg, then we saw the US court indictment that led to the cancellation of several large deals. So, what could it mean for Adani Enterprises? Looks like a rocky road ahead for them to regain the investors' confidence once again.
Absolutely, a lot of investors see, the political risks for Adani Enterprises, and probably the reason why the volatility in the stock. But today, two good news flows. One is that the commercial flight test validation was done successfully for Navi Mumbai, so that operations for the airport will start somewhere in mid of April. And also, Adani Enterprises has decided to exit its entire holding in Adani Wilmar Limited, wherein their 44% stake valuation could see total cash inflow in the balance sheet by around 16 to 17,000 crores. At the higher side, maybe 18,000 crores. But yes, probably the good news flows did the trick today for the stock, surging almost 8% intraday, making it the top Nifty gainer.
That's right. But let's move on to the next stock that definitely became the talking point of today, and that was your Vodafone Idea. Well, the stock surged as much as 7% after the much awaited relief that came in from the Department of Telecom. Now, the Telecom Department waived the need for the telecom operator to submit any bank guarantees for spectrum acquired through the spectrum auctions held in 2012, 14, 15, 16, and even 2021. Prior to this announcement, Vodafone was supposed to submit bank guarantees, which was worth nearly 24,800 crore rupees against each of these spectrum installments. So basically, all of the three telecom operators, which is your Reliance, Jio, Airtel, and in fact, Vodafone Idea, they were waiting for this waiver of the bank guarantees, which was worth 33,000 crores, of which Vodafone was waiting for the major bulk of this relief. Now, telecom companies need not submit any of these bank guarantees immediately. Any shortfall in the payments must be securitized as per the norms that has been decided. Yatin, now with this relief, Vodafone could expand its 4G services and even roll out its 5G services as well. Do you expect that this news could sprinkle some good news for the stock going ahead?
So this was already known because the government also, took a decision, and it was more or less in the public domain. Obviously, today the company announced that the bank guarantee requirement will not be there. Obviously, it's a short-term relief, but 5G rollout, the kind of plans that they have to increase tariffs, pass it on to customers, get the numbers back on the profit and loss account is something important that we'll be watching out for. But yes, for the time being, some good news flows. But clearly, the stock is still below the IPO price. Now, moving from Vodafone Idea to another interesting stock in the mid-cap space, that is Jyoti CNC Automation. We have seen that CNC automation is a bigger part now in the overall manufacturing space, and companies like Jyoti CNC will benefit from the rising use of automation. We have Equurus, which has initiated, buy call on the stock with a target of 1450. Now, if you look at the domestic and the international order book for Jyoti CNC, that remains robust. In fact, Equurus is expecting a 40%, kind of a sales CAGR with a 66% profit compounded annual growth rate for the next two financial years, with FY26 return on equity being in excess of 26%. So, the CNC machining space looks an interesting one, and Jyoti CNC, a recent listed company, clearly finding favor, when it comes to the brokerage coverage as well.
That's right. Now let's move on to another stock which was in focus today. That was your JSW Energy. Well, the stock gained as much as 7% after its arm JSW New signed an agreement to acquire O2 Power in a $1.4 billion value. Now, the transaction is subject to CCI's approval, and once it is approved, it is expected to boost the company's capacity by 23%. Now, the brokerages have been quite optimistic on the counter because of the attractive valuation of the deal as well. Motilal Oswal, for instance, is the most optimistic on the stock among other brokerages. They have shared a buy call on the counter and a target price of 810 rupees per share. Now, what they believe is that the O2 Power acquisition will unlock value, and the acquisition of 4.7 gigawatt renewable asset would unlock about 57 rupees per share in value. and the likes of diverse nature of the asset portfolio, which is of solar, wind, and other niche segments, is also boost its value unlocking. On the other hand, Investec has shared a hold call on the counter and has shared a target price of 675 rupees per share. They believe that the acquisition of this will be a significant step towards the enhancement of renewable energy portfolio. Yet in JSW Energy, from being a pure thermal player, and now it is transitioning itself to a renewable energy player over the next 2, 3 years as well. So the company is gearing up for the future requirements going ahead.
Absolutely, and I spoke to the management of GSW Energy. They are very confident of ramping up their solar as well as wind portfolio. In fact, by the year 2030, they're expecting that 60% of the power generation that they do will be from renewable sources, including solar, and only 33% of the total portfolio will be thermal. Most importantly, when it comes to the acquisition of O2, with the investment of nearly $1.5 billion, they get access to a portfolio which can generate power of nearly 4.7 gigawatt, which is almost 4,700 megawatts. So yes, a very good acquisition. Stock managed to do 6-7% up move intraday. However, settled the day up by nearly 3.5%.
That's right. All right. With that, we've come to an end of this edition of the Closing Bell. Tomorrow is the final day, trading day of the year. So we will be watching out how we ultimately end this year, hoping for a good one. But for now, signing off, Yatin and me. Thank you for watching.